Final Four, Chapter 28, Michael Jordan, 8:09 p.m. MJ shadows his man on defense as the Spartans protect a slim 2-point lead. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he sees Red Bull slip free from Malcolm, beginning his drive to the basket. Without hesitation, MJ slides over into Rocco's path, leaving his man alone. But as MJ commits himself, he sees Rocco's eyes shift to the open spot on the court that MJ just left. Rocco delivers the ball to MJ's wide-open man. No Spartan helps out to cover him, and MJ can only sprint back there, too late to stop the shot. "Stay with your man, not mine," Malcolm roars at MJ as the ball rips through the netting. "Know your place out there, find it, and stay there." So MJ is trying to, the best he can, right, to cover everyone, but he does leave the man that he's supposed to be covering to go after Rocco. And because of that, Rocco is able to pass the ball, and the Trojans are able to make a basket. With the score now tied 88-88 with 1:45 left, the Spartans advance the ball. The Trojans are focused on Malcolm, waiting for him to jet to the basket. Coach Barker holds 2 palms out in front of him, telling his team to take their time. Malcolm passes off to his teammates, with the rock always coming right back into his hands. As the shot clock ticks down to 10 seconds, Malcolm gets more serious about his coming assault on the rim. His final pass is to MJ, whose defender has backed way off of him, cheating towards Malcolm. Then, with the memory of Barker's speech about taking the open shot scorched into his brain, MJ fakes the pass back to Malcolm. The feint buys him even more room, and MJ takes a long breath before he goes into his shooting motion. MJ blocks out everything around him, Malcolm, the defenders, the crowd, and even how much that one shot means. Gliding off his fingertips, the ball feels almost weightless to MJ. The crowd noise explodes in his ears as the Spartans regain the lead. So that's an exciting moment for MJ because he regains some of his confidence, right? His coach told him, right, hey, if you got the ball, you should shoot it. And so he kind of blocks out Malcolm because he knows Malcolm's going to want to shoot it. And he takes the shot himself, and he makes it. Flashback to last night. MJ was looking out a window at the lights of New Orleans when Malcolm stepped out of his bedroom in the hotel suite they were sharing. "My own room and my own toilet. Now this is class," said Malcolm, wearing a green sweatsuit and walking barefoot. "Not like that joke of a room they give us in the Athlete's Dorm. 4 walls, 2 beds, 2 desks, 1 cramped toilet." "Better get used to luxury. You're going to be a multi-millionaire in about 3 months," said MJ, who addressed Malcolm's reflection in the window without turning around. "But you're not the only lucky one. I'll be improving my living conditions too, you know." "Yeah, how's that?" "I'm getting a room of my own in the dorms, doubling my space. I figure you're moving out after the championship game on Monday night," said MJ. "You'll sign with a big sports agency, and they'll rent you out a mansion and a sports car until the draft comes, and you've got dough of your own to throw around." "I'll move my parents into that mansion before you can blink," said Malcolm, going over to the window himself and looking out beside MJ. "That's a lot of lights from clubs and hotels. Do they have any project buildings here in New Orleans?" "They've got plenty of poor people, so I'm sure they do. Projects and homeless shelters," said MJ. "Hey, I was impressed by what you said today to those reporters. I actually agree with you for once. The college basketball system is a ripoff for the players." "I don't have time to think about that now," said Malcolm. "It's all about taking down Troy." "So, from your comments, I guess you won't be donating a bunch of money to the MSU athletic department as a thank you for getting you into the pros?" said MJ. "That's right. Michigan State didn't do a thing for me," said Malcolm, his voice gathering momentum. "I put money in the school's pocket, in Coach's pocket, the sneaker companies. They ought to build a statue of me instead of me ever giving them money." "Well, what are you going to do with all that money? Something for kids who live in the projects?" asked MJ. "You know what? I'd really like to, but I don't do favors for people," said Malcolm. "Doing a favor is what robbed us of my sister. That's a line I can't cross." "Yeah, but it's like you said to me one time. It's not a favor if they don't ask. So you offer." So here they are. They're having actually a civil discussion with one another, and MJ is talking to Malcolm about how Malcolm's situation is about to change, and he's about to make a ton of money. And meanwhile, MJ is just happy that he'll have a room to himself. So he starts talking about what Malcolm's going to do with all of that money. And he says, "Well, are you going to give any to the school?" Malcolm says, "Absolutely not. Michigan is not getting anything," right? Because Michigan State didn't do a thing for me, right? They basically just used me and my talent to make money. And so MJ says, well, are you going to give it back to your community? Malcolm says, I don't do favors, which he's told us before in the book. And MJ says, it's not a favor if they don't ask. So you should offer, like, your community money. You should offer them help. Malcolm opened his mouth to argue, and he closed it again. He just looked out the window silently for a while. Well, I guess I could see the kids all over Brewster Douglas wearing my pro jersey if I built something like a rec center. Then they wouldn't have to play ball on the street all the time, dodging the drama that jumps up from out of nowhere. But still, I don't like the idea of giving money away. Freshmen, think about it. The government is going to take at least 30% of what you make in taxes, only they haven't got a clue how to spend that money right. And I'll prove it to you. Ever see anything change in your neighborhood? See things get any better? Not where I'm from, and especially not for kids, answered Malcolm. Even when my sister went to China with her high school band, that money came from people all over the projects in $1s, $5s, and $10 bills. So you and your lawyers create a foundation. Most of that same money the government was going to take, you can spend it any way you want, like on that rec center you just thought about. You and your parents can do something in your sister's name. You know what? I kind of like that idea. The Trisha McBride Foundation for Youth, said Malcolm, tapping his own image in the glass. Think about it. I will, said Malcolm before he paused. Not that I ever wanted a college roommate, but if I had to have one, you've been all right. You even made an impression on me here and there. And I think I can say my respect for you has grown, said MJ. Anyway, the man your father named you after, Malcolm X, he probably would have been proud of what you said at that news conference today. Why's that? Asked Malcolm. I know X didn't play college ball. Because you challenged the system. You stand for something now, said MJ. You know what X said? No, what? He said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So they do have this great discussion, and MJ says, look, you could give this money back to your community. Does your community need anything? Malcolm says, well, it'd be nice to kind of have like this rec center for kids to go and play ball and so forth. And so MJ kind of talks to him about taxes and how, Malcolm could start a foundation. And through that foundation, right, they could use money to build a rec center for Malcolm's old community. And Malcolm says, I actually really like that idea. It could be called the Trisha McBride Foundation for Youth. And MJ says, I think what you're doing is great there. I think you standing up for the players in that press conference earlier about how, the schools make money off of us, that was really important. And MJ says, I think the person you were named after, Malcolm X, would be proud for you because Malcolm X once said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So the fact that Malcolm is standing for something, okay, even though he is in it for himself, it could benefit other players down the road. Now we're back in the present time with a live radio broadcast of the game at 8:10 p.m. There are 3 broadcasters, a play-by-play man, a color commentator, and sideline reporter Rachel Adams. Play-by-play man. A new Michael Jordan making his own mark on this game with that shot. It's Michigan State by a basket, 90-88, the clock down to 1:10. Backick with the ball for the Trojans. Color commentator. That's 70 seconds, the same number on the Trojan sneakers. Is that kind of fate? Play-by-play man. Backick passes to Rice down low. Rice passes out to the corner. Inside of 1 minute to play. The Trojans now get it back to Rocco Backick. McBride in front of him. Backick on the drive. The running one-hander. It's good. He banked it in off the glass with McBride all over him. We're tied at 90. Color commentator. Tremendous defense by McBride. I can't fault it. Just a better shot by the Bull, taking the only option he was given. Play-by-play man. The crowd is frantic. Could we see a 5th overtime? McBride on the dribble. Backick confronts him, contesting McBride for every inch of the court now. Color commentator. I have a feeling these two will. Play-by-play man. And Backick steals the ball. He just took it from McBride. He has a half step on him from the hoop. He lays it in and scores. Backick scores off the steal. The Trojans are in front, 92-90. Just 34 seconds remain. The shot clock is turned off. Color commentator. McBride blew that breakaway dunk early in this 4th overtime, and now that steal. He's going to have a lot to live with if the Spartans can't rally from here. Play-by-play man. McBride with the ball. Backick is hounding him. He's got a hand on the ball and almost stole it again. Backick nearly swiped the ball again, but McBride recovers. Now Baby Bear Wilkins screens from McBride. Backick can't fight through. Crispin Rice runs at McBride now. 16 seconds to play. A mismatch with Rice guarding the smaller, quicker McBride. And now Michael Jordan bumps Rice. McBride's free. He steps back for a long shot. Bullseye! The Spartans lead by 1, 93-92. There are 11 seconds left to play, and the Trojans call timeout. Color commentator. That's guts. McBride's still standing on the court, talking to his right hand, with the game clock frozen on his uniform number, 11. But instead of having a conversation with his hand, McBride should be thanking the rear end of Michael McJordan for bumping Rice. That's what ultimately got McBride free. Play-by-play man. If you're Coach Alvin Kennedy, if you're Coach Eddie Barker, what do you do now? Color commentator. I think you pray. You thank your lucky stars for being a part of this game. But beyond that, you want to keep your team alert. Anything can happen out there. It already has, and it probably will again. You tell them no spectators, no one standing around. Everyone involved until the final whistle blows. Play-by-play man. Both teams seem exhausted at the end of 40 minutes of regulation time, but now this game is more than 3 hours old. They played just 11 seconds shy of 4 additional 5-minute overtimes. That's nearly 60 minutes of game clock, not to mention the emotional exhaustion as well. So think about that. I mean, think about what basketball is, right? You're running constantly up and down the court, up and down the court, and they have been playing for 3 hours now. I mean, imagine how exhausted these players have to be. Color commentator. At this point, there's no such thing as exhaustion for these players. There's just the will to win. One team is going on to the national championship game in 48 hours. The other team is going home. That's enough to carry them forward. I just feel sorry that the poet Homer didn't get a chance to chronicle this Trojan War. Homer is the original poet who wrote about the Trojan War between the Trojans and the Spartans in Greek mythology. Play-by-play man. The Spartans and Trojans are exiting their respective huddles, and the crowd gives them both a tremendous round of applause. Come to think of it, these fans of these two schools must be as drained as the players. And I'm told we have an update from Rachel Adams on the sidelines. Rachel Adams. Yes, I had a chance to listen in a bit on both huddles. It was calm and relaxed on the Trojans bench, with Coach Alvin Kennedy diagramming several options for plays. But on the other bench, Coach Eddie Barker was pushing the last of his voice to the limits. And he said something I've never heard a coach say before. Their team doesn't know how to win a game this big. They only know how to lose. In just trying to interpret the feeling on each bench, if I didn't know the score, I think the Trojans were ahead by a point, and not the Spartans. Play-by-play man. Interesting stuff, Rachel. Color commentator. We'll see if that Trojan calmness inspired by Alvin Kennedy translates into something big for his squad. Play-by-play man. The referee is ready to begin play. The crowd is up on their feet. The reserves from both benches are standing as well. In the tunnel, the players from Duke and North Carolina are straining to see who survives this epic war. Color commentator. Some of the players on this court have lived their whole lives to bring something special to these 11 seconds. Play-by-play man. Here we go. Crispin Rice to inbound. He gets the ball to Rocco Backick. Backick drives left. McBride's glued to him. We're down to 8 seconds. Backick with a small seam. He attacks the rim and arches a shot high over McBride's reach. It doesn't go. 3 seconds. The rebound is batted around, tapped loose by Jordan. 1 second. Tapped by Rice. No, a second tap at it by Rice. Buzzer sounding. Zzz. It's in. Rice tipped it in. Oh my! But did he beat the buzzer? One referee saying yes, it counts. Another referee is waving it off, saying no, it doesn't count. The players don't know what to do, celebrate or mourn. Everything's on hold. It suddenly turns stone silent here in the Superdome, with everyone waiting for the replay and for the officials to confer. Color commentator. Rice hasn't run over to Hope Daniels like he did when he made the game-winning basket at the buzzer earlier this season. He's probably not sure if he got it off in time either. In fact, there's only one thing for sure. There won't be another overtime. Either the Spartans or the Trojans have won this game by a single point. Play-by-play man. Here's the replay on the scoreboard. Rice tips it just as the game clock reads zeros across the board. Boy, that's close. The officials are now huddled at the television monitor at the scorer's table, watching it in slow motion. Color commentator. And right behind those officials are Crispin Rice, Rocco Bakic, Michael Jordan, and Malcolm McBride. Those players have seen the scoreboard replay. They're not sure either. And now they're looking at each other, the four of them. There's nothing between them except a few feet of space. No more pretenses. No more posturing. It doesn't get any purer than this. They don't know who won or who lost. They just know they've been through some incredible journey together. Play-by-play man. I was just a spectator to it all, and I feel it. I can only imagine what it's like for them. Color commentator. They've been a part of something much bigger than themselves. Something you can't put a label on. If I could freeze this moment in time for them, I would. I'd let them walk away with what they share right now before it gets fractured by an outcome. But that's not how we play this game. There's always a winner, and there's always a loser. So it's this insane end to the game if you go back to what the play-by-play man said. They're down at the basket, and Bakic, he tries to make a shot, and it doesn't go in. And so Rice jumps up to try to tip it in, and misses, and he goes up again to tip it in, and it goes in, but it's right at the buzzer going off. So it's did he get it in time or not? So it's a crazy end to a crazy game when no one knows who's won and who's lost. So everyone's just kind of standing around waiting for the refs to make their decision. This is from a newspaper article on Friday, April 5th. For 18-year-old basketball phenom Malcolm McBride, the past week has been a roller coaster ride of tremendous highs and lows. Last Saturday night, McBride, a freshman at Michigan State, led the Spartans to a dramatic 93-92 quadruple overtime win over the Trojans of Troy at the Final Four in the Louisiana Superdome. So we find out from this newspaper article a week later that Crispin's basket did not count, and so the Spartans won that Final Four game, which is, of course, devastating for the Trojans to come so close and then to lose that game in literally, half a second at the end. But they have to know that they fought really well, obviously. I mean, it was a quadruple overtime game. But the celebration didn't last long. The next morning, an article appeared in a Michigan newspaper detailing how a Detroit-based sports agent named Rodney Crowell had footed the bill for a lavish headstone at the gravesite of McBride's sister Tricia, who was killed in a drive-by shooting nearly 3 years ago. So we find out that article about the headstone does actually get published, but the very next day. That gift may eventually cause McBride to be deemed ineligible under certain NCAA rules for receiving improper benefits and possibly result in Michigan State forfeiting part or all of their wins this season, as well as suffering future penalties. Then on Monday, the day of the national championship game between North Carolina and Michigan State, the NCAA announced it would formally investigate the connection between the McBride family and Crowell, whose brother is a member of the same church choir as Malcolm's mother, Florence McBride. My mother would never do anything wrong like that. Never. If anything, she was a target and got fooled, said Malcolm McBride, who has already left Michigan State and relocated with his family to Florida to train for the upcoming NBA Combine, where coaches and scouts evaluate top college prospects and enter the league's draft this June. So, Malcolm didn't waste any time. As soon as the tournament was over, right, he's gone. And he's down in Florida now with his parents. He's training for the Combine. So he definitely did not even finish out his first year of college. I've never even met this Rodney Crowell dude, said McBride as he stood inside a Miami gym, dressed in shorts and a tank top, with the basketball tucked beneath one arm. And I've just signed with a different agent, so there never was a connection or a bribe gift by him. But that whole story was a distraction for my team. Whether it was because of the distraction of the impending NCAA investigation or the 4 overtimes against the resilient Trojans, the Spartans showed up at the national championship game without their legs. They were blown out by the North Carolina Tar Heels from start to finish in a 91-64 defeat, a game in which an exhausted-looking McBride scored only 14 points, his lowest output of the tournament. So there's a lot going on in just this week since the game. This article comes out about how the sports agent Rodney Crowell paid for Tricia's headstone, and Malcolm moves with his family down to Florida to train for the NBA Combine. He does not sign this Rodney Crowell guy as his agent. He signs with someone else. We also find out that Michigan State did not win the NCAA championship game. They played it against the North Carolina Tar Heels, and they were defeated quite badly, 91-64. And so this newspaper article is like, we wonder if it's because the university is now under investigation by the NCAA since about this whole headstone incident, or was it because the team was completely wiped after playing a game that went into 4 overtimes? Maybe it was a little bit of both. But Malcolm was held to only 14 points that game, which is really low for him. I tried my best for Michigan State and my teammates. I care about Coach and all those guys. I'm sorry if they'll have to deal with any of this in the future. It's not right, said an emotional McBride. In the end, my time there meant more to me than I thought it would. Okay, that's something coming from him. I guess that's what happens when players suffer together, and that's what our last 2 games together were, suffering to win and suffering to lose. Then McBride pulled a bandage from his left biceps, revealing a brand new tattoo, one opposite the portrait of his sister's face, which occupies his right bicep. The tattoo reads, Spartans Forever in the Trojan War, with the letters encircling a flaming basketball. So that's kind of like a nice end of the book for Malcolm, who has acted kind of like a jerk this entire book until the very end when he starts admitting to teammates like MJ that they have made an impact on him. And then in this news article that comes out a week after that game against the Trojans, he says, in the end, my time there meant more to me than I thought it would. And in fact, his time at Michigan State, which was less than a year, he was only there for 1 basketball season, meant enough to him to where he gets a tattoo of it, right? And the tattoo says Spartans Forever in the Trojan War. And then it's the letters encircling a flaming basketball. So at the end, he really did care about his teammates, and the team really did make an impact on him. So it's a sad ending of the book for the Trojans, who fought so hard, and they really were this Cinderella story that no one ever thought would make it to the Final Four. And it's an exciting ending for the Spartans and for Malcolm, who is about to start a new chapter in his life.